In the month of November, I'm going to be hosting a Nonfiction November challenge. This is a month-long reading challenge during the month of November, in which you are tasked to read more nonfiction than you ordinarily would. If you normally read no nonfiction during the course of a month, try to read just one. If you already pick up a good amount of nonfiction, then maybe pick up a little more than you normally would. In order to participate in Nonfiction November, you don't have to commit to reading only nonfiction during the month of November, unless you want to, of course. In order to be a participant in Nonfiction November, all you need to do is read at least one nonfiction book during the month. Nonfiction November has become quite the event over the years. Let's do this one more time. Hi guys, Olive here. And for one final time, I am thrilled to announce the Nonfiction November Challenge. Back in 2015, when I was first getting started on BookTube, it felt like nonfiction could use some more love. I had always been more of a nonfiction reader, and it really surprised me to see how my fellow booktubers and other booktube viewers, like myself, I also watched booktube at the time, it surprised me how infrequently people picked it up. It made me really sad to think that people could perceive nonfiction as stuffy or boring, or maybe not as engaging as the novels that they love to read. Nonfiction has always expanded my world and enriched my life in such meaningful ways, and I really wanted a way to invite other people into the joy of reading nonfiction. I wanted there to be a fun and, most importantly, pressure-free way to invite more people into the world of nonfiction and just to spend the month celebrating nonfiction. And so Nonfiction November was born. Over the past 10 years of running this event here on BookTube, so many people have taken me up on this challenge, and so many people have discovered that it takes very little to get into nonfiction. You might start off skeptical. You might think that nonfiction isn't for you. But then you take an opportunity like this one to give it a try. You decide to participate in Nonfiction November. You pick up a nonfiction book that sounds absolutely fascinating, and then you realize, after you can't put down that book, that nonfiction has been for you this entire time. You just didn't know it. It just takes finding the right kind of nonfiction to make you into a nonfiction reader. And then all of a sudden, there's this whole world of nonfiction out there for you to explore. I know that's happened countless times because people come to me and they tell me their stories of becoming nonfiction readers. How they just needed that little push, that little bit of encouragement that Nonfiction November provides to really discover that they love nonfiction. And then even when they are a dedicated nonfiction fan, they come back and they participate in more Nonfiction Novembers because the event is so fun and rewarding. And this year, we are doing it one last time. So it goes like this. During the month of November, I challenge you to read more nonfiction books than you ordinarily would. So if you don't read any nonfiction right now, try to just read one nonfiction book. If you read one every month, try to read two. If you're already a dedicated nonfiction reader like myself, maybe you want to try to read exclusively nonfiction during the month of November. It's completely up to you. You get to decide how many books you read, as many or as few as you like, just as long as you read at least one nonfiction book during the month of November, you are officially a participant. But for an added challenge, if you want one, every single year we do have 4 one-word challenges that you can use to help you pick your books. There are indeed a massive number of nonfiction books out there, so if you want a fun way to narrow it down, the challenges are here for you. For 2024, our 4 challenge words are code, path, shot, and join. These challenge words are intended to be very broad. They are selected because they can be interpreted in a wide variety of ways. So just for example, our first challenge, code. This could be a book about technology, like computer programming. It could be a book about a cipher, cracking a code. It could be a book that deals with the law, like a legal code. It could be a book about morality or ethics, like your own personal code of conduct. It could even be a book about fashion, like a dress code. Path could mean that you select a nonfiction book about travel. It could be a nonfiction book about a place you would like to travel to. It could be a history book about a specific road or route, like the Silk Road, for instance. It could also be literally a nonfiction book about walking, or it could be a book that really represents where you are in life right now, the path you're on. Shot, of course, could mean you're selecting a book about medicine, a work of military history or a sports book, a book about photography, a book about alcohol, a book that discusses speculation or a theory, or my personal favorite, you could also select a nonfiction book that sits well outside of your comfort zone. You're giving it a shot. And then the final challenge is join. And when I hear this word, I think of togetherness. I think of a gathering. I think of belonging. I think of family. So I think a lot of memoirs would fit this perfectly. Certainly books on food. But I also thought books on psychology, like the two halves of the brain joining together. I thought an essay collection would also be perfect for this, since the book itself is literally a joining together of essays. But if books on business are more your thing, this could be a good challenge for that, especially if there's a merger involved. But those were just some examples of how you might interpret these words. But really, you can make them mean whatever you want them to mean. And you can use these challenges however you please. So you could do one, you could do a few, you could do all of them. You could combine them, you could bend them and twist them to make them fit the books you already wanted to read for Nonfiction November, which I know a lot of people do, and I find that very entertaining. I love when people do that. Or if these don't work for you, you can ignore them entirely. They're completely optional, and I promise you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't do them. They're here just for a little added fun, for some extra zest if you want them. But really, as I said, the only requirement to participate in Nonfiction November is to read at least one nonfiction book during the month. Everything else is up to you. More than just reading nonfiction during the month of November, though, this is a month when we really celebrate nonfiction. We talk about nonfiction, we share book recommendations, we discover new subgenres and cool new creators who also love to read and talk about nonfiction, and we do it everywhere on social media. We have a Goodreads page that's been around since the very starts. It is a group you are welcome to join. It's public. We have an Instagram page. I post things there leading up to November and throughout the month. We also have a post per day Instagram challenge that you are welcome to participate in. There is a TikTok. We also have a story graph challenge where you can track your progress toward the 4 challenge words if you choose to participate. There are so many amazing ways to get involved online. The links to everywhere you can find Nonfiction November will be linked for you in the description box below. And remember, when you are posting wherever you are on social media, to use the hashtag Nonfiction November. That way people can find you and they can see what you're reading. I hope you'll consider joining us for this final year that I will be steering the ship. Like I said before, from everything I've heard from people over the years, when they decide to give nonfiction a chance, or they just decide to make it a focus of their reading during the month of November, they have so much fun. And they discover a whole new side to themselves as a reader. They get to really expand their reading world. So it's personally rewarding, but then it's also this wonderful, beautiful time of year when we can come together as a community to shine a spotlight on this often underappreciated genre. We can get excited about reading nonfiction. We can talk about all the wonderful things that reading nonfiction gives us. It's just a blast. So if you do decide to join us, I highly suspect you're going to love it as much as many of us do. We do have some time before Nonfiction November begins, so you can start thinking about what you might like to read during the month. If you haven't already selected your books, you can start thinking about what books might best satisfy those challenge words if you're interested in taking those on. If you want any help selecting your books, exactly 1 week from today, I will be posting my own TBR for the event, and that video will also contain recommendations for each of the 4 challenges. I'll give you some suggestions in case you're stuck on any of these challenges. But in the meantime, be sure to follow Nonfiction November everywhere you are on social media. Again, the links are in the description box below. We will be posting some great nonfiction content leading up to the month of November to get you excited, and then throughout the entire month. Whether this is your first Nonfiction November or even your 10th, thank you so much for your support and your enthusiasm. We're going to run this back one more time and make it the best one yet. Thanks so much for watching. Can't wait for November to get here, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.